video, we have started the chapter Natural Resources and Their Use. So let us summarize the part 1 which we have already completed. So in the part 1 we have read that nature is the totality of life, that is biotic and abiotic forms, which will constitute or be a part of the environment. And it is important to note that nature is not created by humans. So when do these natural elements become resources? For any natural element to become a resource, it should be that these elements must be for our human use, for our living, or we create new things from them for our use. Then the natural elements will become a resource. And for an element to be called as a resource, there are three main criteria. The first, it should be technologically accessible. That is, we should have those techniques to extract those elements, and it should be economically feasible. For example, if people are willing to pay 100 rupees for a particular thing, but the extraction of that is costing you 150 rupees, then it is not economically feasible for us to take that mineral out and sell to people. So if it's economically feasible, then only we'll extract it and use it for our purposes. So if it's very expensive, then we don't actually prefer using them and we'll find other alternatives. And it should also be culturally acceptable. That is, people should not feel that it's against their culture. So cutting the trees of sacred groves or cutting sacred trees is against our culture, so it's not culturally acceptable, then it will not become a resource. So nature has two main characteristics. That is, the first one is restoration and the second one is regeneration. Restoration in the sense, once it is damaged, it will be restored to its healthy original state. That is restoration. But regeneration is basically the formation or the generation of new life. These are the two characteristics or features of nature. And then we classified the resources based on their use. The first categorization is based on their uses of the resource. So resources for life, resources for materials, and resources for energy. Resources for life are like air, water, and soil. Resources for materials like from coal to marble, wood, and many other things are the materials which we use. And resources for energy like coal, petroleum, and many more things which are used for generating energy. And the next categorization is based on the replenishment. So the first is the renewable and the non-renewable. Renewable are the natural resources that can be replenished over a period of particular stipulated time, either through the natural process or by human intervention. In any of the ways, it can be replenished. Then it will be renewable. It can be renewed. That is the meaning of renewable. While non-renewable resources are the natural resources that are depleted faster than their rate of formation. So their rate of formation will be less in comparison to how we use them. Then they'll become the non-renewable resources. So the examples of renewable are sunlight, water, wind, and biomass, while the non-renewable resources are coal, petroleum, and natural gas. So renewable resources are finite. They are not infinite. But we can say that non-renewable are finite, but we can say that renewable resources are infinite. So with this, until here we have studied in our first part. Now we'll move on and continue the chapter. In the previous part, we have completed until the non-renewable resources. Now we'll be starting with the next part, that is the distribution of natural resources and its implications. Implications in the sense the problems or the things related to the distribution of natural resources. So natural resources are not evenly present across our planet or even within the countries. So this uneven arrangement shapes human settlements, trade patterns, international relations, and conflicts too. So many wars have been fought and continue to be fought to gain control over the natural resources. So it is important to note that natural resources are not evenly distributed, due to which many wars are also fought to gain control over the natural resources, because natural resources are the wealth or the real value of any place. So that is why wars are even fought for gaining control over these natural resources. Some might be very expensive or very precious. So that is why they wanted to gain control over those precious natural resources. So the industries located near natural resources create employment and opportunity for the local people. So obviously industries are always located near natural resources. Mostly they prefer to build their industries near natural resources for the availability of raw material, and due to which employment is created for the people, local people living around there. And the townships will grow around them and expand the economic opportunities for others too. Not just for the local people living around the industry, but it also creates employment for the people elsewhere as well. So more modern facilities that improve the quality of life will become accessible. So however, these benefits are often accompanied by costs. So in the short term as well as in the long term. So obviously when you want to build an industry near a natural resource, it obviously will cost, but the benefits are also very high. And we have examples from across the world of people living in resource rich areas who have been displaced from their homes to facilitate such great developments. So in some cases, their sacred places are under threat, leading to conflicts. National and international trade depend on the geographical location of the natural resources. So even the national and international trade will depend on the geographical location of the natural resources. Geographical location in the sense the places where natural resources are found. So combined with human knowledge and skills, these can create unique products like Ward's steel. As we know, trade fueled the development of large empires in India. So here they have mentioned about Ward's steel. So Ward's steel is also known as Damascus steel, and it is a crucial steel known for its banded or layered pattern, and it has high carbon content. And it is important to note that it's originated in ancient India, particularly in the southern regions. And its making is also unique, that is the steel produced by the method which it is known in the ancient India itself, that is the porous involved preparation of porous iron, hammering it while hot to release the slag, breaking it up and sealing it with wood chips in a clay container and heating it until the pieces of iron absorbed the carbon from the wood and melted. So this is why there is a great importance for this Ward's steel. So they mentioned in this book because it has high carbon content, and also it is originated in the ancient India and mostly found in the southern regions. So nature will not pay attention to the political boundaries. So this leads to many problems regarding the sharing of natural resources across states as well as countries as well. So our natural resources will be found whole of the planet, and nature will not show or care about the political boundaries, that is the boundaries of particular countries which we people have created. So due to which there will always be a conflict for natural resources between humans It's not just in between countries, but it will also happen across states. So one such example, a very classic example in our very own country, that is the sharing of Kaveri water among Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Puducherry. Negotiations and management were required to maintain peace and fair sharing of Kaveri river. So, of course, reaching such agreements between the neighboring countries is not easy. So, having a proper relation in our state is only difficult. So, it will be obviously be more difficult when countries are involved in resource sharing. The next is the natural resource curse. So, having abundant natural resources will not guarantee economic prosperity. So, obviously, if a particular country is rich in resources, it is not for sure that the country will also be rich in its prosperity. So, some regions which are rich in natural resources can experience slower economic growth and development. It can happen. So, a phenomenon economists call that is the natural resource curse or the paradox of plenty. So, when a particular region is rich in resources, it will not evidently mean that the particular country will become prosperous. So, this particular criteria is what the economists, this phenomenon is what the economists call the natural resource curse or the paradox of plenty. When we put very simply, this means that often having plenty of natural resources will not automatically mean that the country is rich. So frequently, economies are unable to develop the industries that convert the resources into products of higher value. This chapter, Factors of Production, in the later part of this book will give us the understanding of this. Even though the country has a lot of resources, maybe they are not able to convert those resources into useful things for humans, or they are not able to efficiently manage the resources available and also transport them to various other places. So there may be many things following to the use of resources. So it depends on how the country and the people will manage these resources for them to become prosperous and also to have a great future ahead. So it will not automatically mean that if you have resources, you will be rich, the country will be rich. It is dependent on the management as well. How we'll be creating higher products of higher value out of the resources available in that particular place. So India has generally avoided this curse by investing in the development of such countries to meet our growing needs. So obviously India has not done this mistake because we have invested in the development of such industries. So the development of industries around the natural resources is very important. Maybe some countries are not able to build industries near the natural resources due to which they are lacking. But India has not done this mistake. It has always encouraged in investing in development of such industries to meet the growing needs and also use the resources judicially. However, the challenge of balancing resource extraction with sustainability remains. But even though we are able to do it, but we are not able to do it in a much sustainable way, that is by thinking about the future generations. We are just focusing on extracting, but we are not able to think about the future generations in an effective way. So understanding and managing natural resources is a valuable starting point. But human knowledge, good governance and strategic planning will determine whether they become lasting benefits or just the temporary windfalls. So obviously, understanding and managing natural resources is a valuable starting point. So how to extract these resources? It is very important to know how to extract, but it is also important to know how we can carry on these natural resources for the future as well, so that the benefit will last long, not just that you use up now and after some years we don't have anything to use, then that is just a temporary windfall. But we should have lasting benefits. That is why we have to be wise in using our natural resources. So the next part is responsible and the wise use of natural resources. Stewardship. So sustaining life on earth requires that we have to respect nature and use natural resources in a way that enables the restoration and regeneration of the renewable resources. So, it is important to note that renewable resources are the ones which can replenish themselves, but we have to give them that time or the period of duration for them to replenish. If we're just using up more than the rate of replenishment, then that is the case of damaging the nature's cycle. So we have to be wise and we have to respect nature and use the natural resources in a way that the restoration and regeneration will happen smoothly, and the responsible and judicious use of non-renewable ones, that is which will take a lot of billions of years to form as well. So scientists who are studying these aspects have warned that the irresponsible treatment of natural resources has led to pollution, biodiversity loss. Biodiversity in the sense the decline of variety of life on earth. Biodiversity are a combination of two words, that is bio plus the diversity. So bio in the sense living organisms and diversity means varieties. So due to pollution and many other causes, global warming and many more things, the animals or the creatures are becoming extinct. So various species are becoming extinct, due to which the biodiversity loss is happening. And the climate change which has been taken place at an increased pace in the recent years. In the recent past few years, the species lost are becoming more. The count is increasing day by day. That is, the endangered species, nearly endangered, and extinct species are becoming more. Therefore, it is important that we use our natural resources wisely and not spoil the rhythm of nature. So, the restoration and regeneration of renewable resources. So, here are the two examples of how we are pushing the use of natural resources beyond their capacity to regenerate. So, they have given us two examples here. So, many farmers in our country will extract groundwater for irrigation purposes. So, obviously, they'll extract the groundwater for irrigation purposes. Irrigation in the sense for the supply of water to the plants is known as irrigation. So, in most states, the extraction rate is greater than the rate in which the water table is being replenished. So, the groundwater has a rate of replenishment, but we are using it more than the rate of replenishment. Our usage is more than the rate of replenishment of groundwater. So, over a period of time, this deficit builds up. That is, this deficit in the sense there is a difference in between the usage and the rate of replenishment. For now, it may be not affect us so much, but in the future, this will go on, keep on to increase, and at one time, this will build up, leading to the higher cost of extraction of groundwater and eventually to its unavailability as well. Maybe our future generations will not be able to find groundwater itself. So it has been predicted that many of our growing cities will run out of groundwater soon. Very soon, many of our growing cities will run out of water. So initiative to raise the groundwater levels have been launched to remedy this. Remedy in the sense to cure or to take the measures to actually balance this, and later to give nature some time to replenish the water levels. So the traditional practices of water harvesting, the rejuvenation of the ponds and tanks, cutting down of waste consumption of water, processing and reusing of water are some of the strategies which are attempted for us to save water and replenish the levels. So water harvesting and rejuvenation of the ponds and tanks, and cutting down the wasteful usage of water, using water wisely, and processing and reusing the water are some of the strategies which are attempted by us. So what are the strategies which we have taken? The first one is water harvesting. So the rainwater will be collected, that is water harvesting, and next is digging up the ponds and tanks so that water can be filled and stored, and that in way will increase the groundwater levels. And next is reducing the wasteful use of water, not wasting water, and the next is reusing, recycling or processing the water again. So similarly, the improper use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides have led to soil degradation. So for suppose if a farmer is cultivating a piece of land and he is using a lot of pesticides for his crops, then obviously when he waters his plant and the water will flow, and then these pesticides will come and mix up in the water, and in a way the soil will also lose its fertility because these pesticides will go and mix into the soil, and as well the water will also be polluted. So in a way both there will be water pollution and also soil degradation. For now we can feel that the crops have not been attacked by pests or any other insects, but in the future we can see that the plant growth will be difficult in that particular land because the soil's fertility has been reduced. So the traditional farming practices are considered soil to be a part of Mother Earth. So in the traditional ways we have considered soil to be a part of Mother Earth. So practices like the use of cow dung and other natural fertilizers, mulching, multi-cropping and so on enabled the holistic soil development, soil management. So in the previously we used to use the cow dung and other natural fertilizers instead of pesticides, and that in a way will enable the soil to replenish its minerals more naturally. And we must learn from these practices and apply them in our current situation to prevent further degradation of the soil, and we need to replenish and rejuvenate our soil. So in this they have used the thing that is mulching. So it is important to know what is mulching. So mulching is a process of applying mulch. So what is a mulch? So it is a layer which is spread on top of the soil surface around the plants. So it is placed on top of the soil surface around the plants, and mulch is a protective covering for the soil which is typically 2 to 4 inches thick, and it is made up of both organic and inorganic materials. So why do we actually use the process of mulching? So it will conserve the moisture and it suppresses the weeds and it moderates the soil temperature and improves soil health. So this is one of the traditional methods by which we can expect or prevent the soil from getting degraded. So these are all the things which we are trying to implement now. Now we'll be starting with the first example, that is overexploitation of groundwater. That is a case from Punjab. So a crisis has unfolded in the fertile plains of Punjab where groundwater resources have been severely depleted. So Punjab was a home to Green Revolution. Green Revolution was started in India by M.S. Swaminathan. It was started in India by M.S. Swaminathan. By his efforts, Green Revolution has been evidently found in India, and that has fed a large proportion of our population and has contributed to India becoming self-sufficient in food. So this revolution has contributed India to become self-sufficient in food, because with the help of Green Revolution, by the use of high-yielding variety crops and fertilizers and many more things, the yield has been increased in less duration. In less time, there will be more yield. But today, the same state faces issues of sustainability. So nature has been exploited beyond its regeneration rate, at least in a short term. So when you are doing such things like reducing the duration and increasing the yield, for that particular duration of time it might sound fine, but after some time the soil will start to degrade, and that the groundwater levels have reduced. So however, this concern is not just particularly for Punjab, it affected many other states as well. So in 1960, the farmers have shifted to high yielding varieties of wheat and paddy, high yielding, that is HIV varieties. And these required more water than the traditional seeds, and farmers began to extract groundwater to meet these needs. So when farmers have shifted to the green revolution, then they started to use the HIV seeds, which are high yielding varieties. When we are using such high yielding varieties, they will require more water than the regular seeds. So when they wanted more water, then the farmers started to use groundwater for these purposes. So in addition, the supply of free power led to the over pumping of groundwater. That is a situation still prevalent in much of India. So when there is supply of free power, which has led to the over pumping of groundwater. So when the power was used for the extraction of groundwater, then more water started to come from the ground than what is actually wanted for the plants. So there was over pumping in a small duration of that time. So modern farming techniques also required the use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. So the combined effort of these factors in that groundwater level in a large part of India, in Punjab, has become inaccessible till the depths about 30 meters, and chemicals from the pesticides and fertilizers have been dissolved in the groundwater, causing health hazards. So firstly, there was over pumping of the groundwater due to free power supply, and the second thing is the use of fertilizers and pesticides that they went and mixed up with the groundwater and polluted the water, creating many health issues, because obviously these fertilizers are not friendly and they're poisonous. So they went and mixed up with the groundwater, even the groundwater was polluted. So these are the two causes for the reduction of groundwater level, and it has become so inaccessible that we have to go deep 30 meters in order to get the access of groundwater. We have to go 30 meters deep under the ground for the access of groundwater. So almost 80% of the area of Punjab has been classified as overexploited. So over 80% of the area of Punjab has been classified as overexploited. That is more than the exploitation rate. It is far more than what needs to be accessed. In other words, we have drawn water at the rate of much greater than at which the restoration and rejuvenation of the groundwater is possible. So suppose 100% can be restored, but we have used it for 200%. Obviously, nature cannot match up with such great speeds. So obviously, we have not given the particular duration of time for its proper regeneration. That is why there is a depletion or sudden strike down in the levels of groundwater. And we can see that the food security was ensured for a short term, but the long term consequences will take time and effort to heed. So when the issue has become so big, then it will take a lot of time to come out of it. And the next is the case of cement. So until now we have studied about the groundwater case, how it has been overexploited. Now the case of cement. So we cannot imagine life without cement. Our houses, schools and hospitals and buildings and bridges, roads, airports all require cement for the construction. So the production of cement has been listed as one of the most polluting industries. So it is important to remember that the production of cement has been listed as one of the most polluting industries. So cement industry is very polluting. It is one of the most polluting industries. And the process of production releases fine dust that enters our lungs and those of animals, damaging them, and settles on leaves of plants by decreasing their yields and causes water pollution and soil pollution too. So it has been very polluting for the sense that it releases fine dust, and this will be inhaled by us, and this will go and stay in our lungs, so it even damages our lungs. That is the first point. And second point, it goes and settles down on plants' leaves. So plants basically will grab sunlight from leaves itself for their photosynthesis process. So when this cement will go and settle down on the leaf, obviously the rate by which it will take up the sunlight will reduce, and therefore the photosynthesis will reduce, thereby reducing the production of food. So their yield will be reduced overall, their yield will be reduced. And the third point, it also causes soil and water pollution as well. So the Central Pollution Control Board has created guidelines for cement factories to ensure that the pollution is minimized or eliminated. So the Central Pollution Control Board has set up some rules for the cement factories to follow. So in addition, there is a move towards creating alternative materials that will reduce pollution. So firstly, this board, that is the Central Pollution Control Board, has set up some guidelines for cement industries. And the second thing is that they started to create the alternative materials in order to reduce pollution. So this includes the use of traditional materials like stone, mud, and new plant-based materials and recycled materials from waste plastic. So instead of cement, we are trying to use stone, mud, and new plant-based materials, and also the recycled materials from waste plastic. So the traditional materials and methods have been combined with modern technological advances to create new materials that are sustainable, and the process of production is less polluting and provides local employment, and it is made keeping in mind the climate of the place. So now we have started to find alternatives for cement by searching for the traditional methods, and we also have to keep in mind that the use of these materials will depend on the climate of that particular place. So if the place is warm, then a particular material will be used. If a place is cold, then a different material will be used. So it's important to remember the alternative for cement will depend on the place where you're actually constructing the things. And it is important to remember that we create new things which are sustainable, and the process of production is less polluting in comparison to cement. Next is Vriksh Ayurveda, is an ancient Indian botanical science that focuses on the study and care of plants and trees. So the term comes from Sanskrit, that is Vriksh, in the sense tree, and Ayurveda in the sense it is a science of life or health. So Vriksh Ayurveda means it is based on, first is Vriksh means tree and Ayurveda is life or earth, and it is an ancient Indian botanical science. So this traditional knowledge system dates back several millennia and was formalized in scripts such as Surapala's Vriksha Ayurvedam around the 10th century CE, that is the Common Era. So it has elaborate recommendations on specific plants to be grown on different soil types and provides intricate methods, that is specific methods for the seed selection, preservation and pre-planting treatments. So the irrigation techniques, irrigation in the sense watering of the plants, are elaborately explained with recommendations varying according to the plant species, growth stage and seasonal conditions. And it specifies the pest management strategies through natural repellents and plants that could be grown together. So this form of sustainable agriculture promotes practices like crop rotation and mixed cropping to maintain the soil health. Vriksha Ayurveda also offers advice on proper methods of plowing soil so as to retain the soil moisture as well as to facilitate the growth of living organisms in the soil like fungi, bacteria, and earthworms. So, in the book of Ayurvedam, in the branch of Ayurvedam that is Vriksha Ayurveda, focuses on how to do agriculture, how to do farming, how to grow plants. So it focuses starting from plowing of seed to harvesting, and between how to irrigate the plant, how to actually use the natural repellents to get rid of insects and many other things, and how to improve the growth of living organisms in the soil like fungi, bacteria, and earthworms to increase the fertility of the soil, and many other things are clearly written elaborately in these scripts. And they have written about sustainable agriculture so that the soil will not be degraded. And they've also spoke about crop rotation. Crop rotation in the sense, for suppose in one particular season you have grown some of the crop which you wanted for your earning, and then for the next crop season, in between these two crop seasons, you will grow the leguminous crops. Leguminous crops are grown because nitrogen content in the soil will be increased due to the rhizobium, which is present in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. So in between two crop seasons, you try to grow the leguminous plants, and then the nitrogen content in the soil will be increased. So in this way, you use the crop rotation to enhance the soil fertility, and mixed cropping to maintain the soil health will be done. So every time you don't crop the same plant in that field, you keep on changing so that only one kind of mineral will not get completely used up in that soil, in that particular place of land. With this, we have completed example 1. Now we'll move to the second case, that is from Sikkim. So Pema's family farm in Sikkim faced declining yields and mounting their loans from expensive chemical inputs. So when the state government announced a policy to promote organic farming throughout the state, Pema's family has thought of giving it a try. So initially, Pema's family was being indulged in loans, and the yield is also reducing. Maybe because the soil is not fertile, or it is not proper for the cultivation, or the weather or the climate is not suitable. So when government has announced a policy to promote organic farming, they thought of trying it. This was not an easy transition in the sense a change from one thing to another. Initially, the yields dropped as well as the soil was recovering from years of chemical use. Initially, they were using chemicals, but now the soil has started to recover, but the yield has reduced. So the family switched to compost, prepared natural pest repellents using neem and garlic. They started to use neem and garlic and started growing multiple crops across the year, not just fixing to one. They started to do multiple crop rotation. And after about 5 years, Pema's farm was thriving. So even though they were struggling in initial times, but after 5 years, it has started to thrive, and she was able to sell her cardamom, ginger, and traditional vegetables at premium prices. So in 2016, Sikkim became a 100% organic state with all its farmland certified to be organic. So in the year 2016, it was certified that all the lands in Sikkim, farmlands, have been certified to be organic. And the effects were transformational. And the local biodiversity has flourished as well, with beneficial insects and birds which are returning, and the tourism increased as visitors came to see the organic farming model. And farmers' income grew by 20% on an average. And today, Sikkim serves as a global model for demonstrating that an entire region can successfully transition to the sustainable agricultural practices while improving both ecological and economical outcomes. So, when they had a shift from regular farming to organic farming by using natural methods, even though the transition was a bit difficult, but now it is both ecologically, that is, the biodiversity is thriving, the tourism is improving, and they became a growth model, And even there were economic benefits because the 20% of an average, there was a growth in the farmers' income. So it is both ecologically and economically beneficial for the people in that particular state. So the next is the responsible and judicious use of resources. So in the case of non-renewables, we need to ensure that we use the resources so that they can last long enough for humanity to find more sustainable alternatives. So it is important to remember that the non-renewable ones, that is which cannot be replenished so quickly, we have to use them judicially until we find alternatives for those materials. For example, we need to switch to renewable sources of energy for many purposes as we can. So if we use up coal for electricity, then at one point of time, the complete coal will not be available for us. So from now on, we have to shift from using coal to using solar energy, wind energy, or many more things as per the economical feasibility, so that the coal will not be depleted to become complete zero. So this is the image of the solar parks, which is located in Rajasthan. It can generate enough electricity to power about 15% of the current needs of Rajasthan. Even as we deal with these issues, we must be mindful that the proper arrangement and access to resources, including basic ones like water, clean air, is often unfair to some sections of the society. Even now, it is not available for some sections of the society. In cities, many areas do not receive adequate and regular supply of drinking water. Even in the cities, there is no regular supply in some of the places. So air pollution caused by industries and excessive use of fossil fuels affects those who are unable to protect themselves from these hazards. So we must remember that our relation with nature and act as stewards of natural resources towards restoration, regeneration, and sustainability. The Bhagavad Gita refers to Loka Sangraha, the idea that everyone must transcend their personal desires and act for the well-being of all. Has the time come for us to consider this seriously? So we have to think about the future generations and make judicious use. So if we will not use the resources properly enough and use it wastefully, then in the future generations it will be more difficult for their survival. So according to what Bhagavad Gita refers to Loka Sangraha, that is the idea that everyone must transcend the personal desires and act for the well-being of all. We have to act for the good of everyone. So in this chapter, we have read that natural resources are materials and substances that occur in nature and are valuable to humans. And there are different ways of categorizing resources, that is renewable and non-renewable and useful categories. So there are also materials for life, material for resources for material, and resources for energy. And the resource curse can overcome through investments in the development of technology and skills. It also improves employment opportunities. And we need to become vigilant about the rate at which we need renewables. Vigilant in the sense we have to be cautious that we use renewables so that not to overexploit them, and judicious use and wise use of the non-renewables will enable stretching their use for a longer period of time until we find the proper alternatives for them. So with this, we have completed the chapter. So once more, we give a quick NCERT final reading for a better understanding of whatever we have completed and solve these questions.